Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Historical Humans Reacts. And today we are talking something very modern, something very current, and something that is exceptionally contentious, more so than anything else we've ever covered. And it's contentious on two fronts. Mainly, what we're talking about is a site that is located in downtown Miami that is home to a 2,000-year-old archaeological site. And the site was approved to be actually constructed upon to have a high rise building placed on top of the site, destroying the site. But before we talk about what's going to be there, do you want to talk about what used to be there?
Sure. So the site that is being excavated in this archaeological endeavor is a 1,000-year-old indigenous market. I believe I believe the settlement itself is known as Tequesta. It sits where modern Miami now resides, and it was one of the major Native American settlements of Florida. It was built at the mouth of the Miami River some 2,000 years ago. So, yeah, it's basically as old as Christianity, and it's being destroyed.
And when we talk about this site too, that is just the village portion of the site, which the village portion of the site is of the Tequestra, which is a local tribe. And the interesting thing here, there's a couple interesting things that I find personally.
Yeah,
Some of
yeah,
the
this is
oldest
this.
artifacts they found were 7,000 years old, which is archaic. So that is extremely old, and that is before permanent settlement, shows how long people have been in this region. But that and this site alone has produced over 1 million artifacts.
Mhm.
1
Yeah,
million.
yeah. And one of the big pushes right now, especially as the excavations are going on, because they are ongoing as we talk about it, uh, is there has been a coordinated effort from both archaeologists, indigenous people, and I believe preservation um, folks to, at the very least, force the companies that are building here to give all the artifacts to museums so that the indigenous culture and the heritage of this place can be publicly acknowledged. They are not doing that.
The thing with that too is a lot of the preservationists and a lot of the more extreme views, quote unquote, even though I think this is probably more appropriate, is they want to preserve some or all of the site and then have interpretive displays and notes that will give insight into this site. But with that being said, the group that's responsible for development has spent about $20 million on the dig so far and is willing to spend millions more on storage, analysis, and interpretation, but only if the city does not derail its plans. It is willing to destroy this site in its entirety
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
build
Uh,
a high rise.
Yeah, and then that's one of the big concerns too, is because this building group has custody of these artifacts legally, which means that if the city were to stop production, say no, 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 we can't build here for any reason, then then this construction group can just go, well, I guess we lost all those artifacts you dug out of the ground. Oopsie, and destroy all the history. It's effectively a hostage.
And to
Yeah.
their credit, too, a lot of indigenous groups are saying that the developer has not fully cooperated with them in a true nature. They haven't been honest and transparent with them, and they have not adequately consulted with the tribes about the plans, about what's happening, about the treatment and protection of the ancestors. Now, to their credit, this developer has contracted out to a more reputable archaeology company in Paleo West. So they're going to be the ones that handle most of that stuff. But the fact that they are willing to pull out of that agreement at any time, given their plans, is a problem. And the
Yeah,
other thing that's
and
a
just you keep going by all means.
sorry, I'm on a tangent, but this area is important too because it highlights just how prime of real estate Miami is. Miami touts itself as being this new city, this brand new development, but in reality, the region that it's in has been settled for 4,000 plus years, and people have been visiting for significantly longer.
Yeah, and the thing too is just with the initial stuff you were talking about is just that's one of the reasons why getting this to everything you said is the reason why getting final custody of these artifacts to a university or a museum instead of a land development company is so important, is so that we guarantee that they are preserved, that they're not just studied once and discarded, or that they don't get to be used as a hostage in negotiations. Hey, indigenous peoples, here's your heritage. Do as I say, or it is all destroyed. That
And
is not a good policy, and it's not a good look for this company.
no, not at all. And there's actually some precedent to this people, this site, and this area. In 1998, there was another outcry because a similar site was being developed just a few blocks away. When archaeologists were doing the pre-development dig, they found a large circle of post holes. They found what they effectively think is a ceremonial structure that's about 2,000 years ago, and the after the large outcry, the state and local officials spent $27 million to buy and protect the area that's now known as Miami Circle. So they preserved this place in situ, which is absolutely incredible. But now this, some what, 20 25 years later, they're looking to basically go back on all the hard work that was done.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just the site. You know the decision to develop here is itself contentious. How it's being handled is contentious. There's effectively a better way to be doing everything that is being done here, in terms of oversight and governance. And I think that really shows with the next major controversy, which has racked the site and was really got it into the news and brought it to the public eye, especially this year, which is the complete lack of any sign of public safety involved in the excavations or care for this site. OSHA has been called on it twice already, and it's looking like they're going to be called many, many more times.
And the reason for that is archaeologists are actually getting sick at the site and are running a risk of cancer because before this land was a clear a clear parcel of land and suited for development, there was actually a Standard Oil refinery that was on the site, and partially by negligence of the company and partially due to the lack of regulations, the site was heavily contaminated with a slew and cocktail of horrible chemicals. Which, would you like to go through the list, because
Yeah,
I know you
sure.
found some
Yeah,
spicy ones in there.
yeah, sure. So I'm gonna go through it in terms of just general knowledge healthy. So number one, benzene causes blood anemia and bone cancer. Uh, Tungsten causes pulmonary fibrosis and can effectively change the chemical composition of your blood. Mercury and arsenic, both of which are well-known poisons, the former of which can result in what is effectively known as insanity. Uh, See all instances of Victorian Mad Hatters. It's all mercury poisoning. Drives you to complete erratic behavior. um, oh, and did I mention that benzene is so incredibly flammable that it is effectively a bomb?
Oh, jeez.
The presence of that compound makes anything explosive.
And there's been a lot of issues with the whole project because the developer themselves are pushing for this to be created. They're seeing the dollar signs and the money, so they're not trying to really. A lot of times these archaeology projects are known as salvage archaeology because you're basically getting what you can out before the bulldozers come in. And
Yep.
they're having a lot of issues. And then the company I previously mentioned, Paleo West, is also really struggling because they've had numerous complaints by archaeologists who have struggled with bouts of fainting, nausea, rashes, compulsive sneezing,
Yeah.
to name
And
a few among the number of carcinogenic
Yeah.
materials that are present.
And the reason for the presence of these materials is way back. If you rewind the clock between about 50 and 100 years ago, there was a company called Standard Oil, which had a refinery in this on this site in this area, not directly where they're digging, but more or less adjacent to it, that appears to be leaking. As that appears to be the source of most of these chemicals, as the site itself is currently in an aquifer of sorts, so it has to constantly be drained, excavated, drained, excavated. And they've noticed that after they drained it the first few times, oil started coming in instead of water.
Yeah, which is obviously disgusting, but that brings up a lot of issues where the pollutants and everything gets laid down. And because of that aquifer, because of the fact that they have to go through,
Mm-hmm.
they basically would rush in and try and excavate what they can after they pump it out before the water started rushing back in. And the fact that it was oil coming back in,
Mm-hmm.
oh, is awful.
Yeah.
And
And basically it's summed up pretty well in the one of the articles that we were looking at for this, which is basically whoever was in charge of doing the environmental assessment for the impact of this site did not do their job. There is no set of circumstances where that person did their job properly if the site is being flooded with crude oil.
you feel bad for the archaeologist and for the people involved, because what they're saying is that it's a complete mismanagement of this project. They're saying from the project managers with Paleo West that are handling the excavations, like there's one person who reported a complaint that was saying that he had a bunch of rashes and started feeling nauseous and sick, and his supervisor told him to take a COVID test and return back to work.
Yeah, and as a result of these practices, both by Paleo West and by I can't remember the name right now, but what is the company that's doing it? The development company, was it a Related Group, which is developing the site?
Yeah.
There have been a total of 3 lawsuits filed against those two entities for violation of worker safety.
And the tragic thing I find, and what a lot of the people working here say, is that this is one of the coolest, most important sites that they've ever encountered. And there's been a lot of I wouldn't say threats, but there's been a lot of risk of retaliation coming from this because of the mismanagement. And like the one person ended up going for blood work after suffering from stomach pains, headaches, coughing, sneezing. Um, and her blood level came back with above normal levels of tungsten, and was coincidentally let go without cause after her health concerns were brought forward.
Yeah.
Isn't that
And
crazy? Being
yeah,
let go right after health concerns be brought
yeah,
up.
yeah. Yeah, you're suddenly going to need to use that health insurance, so we're going to take it away from you.
Oh, let's be real. It's Paleo West. They did not have health insurance.
Okay, yeah, well, it is paleo. The yeah, remember what we said about tungsten? Chemically changing your blood.
Yeah.
Nah. Yeah, you should be scared. And one of the things too is that like no one is being given safety equipment to compensate for this. It's not like these people have masks or ventilators or anything resembling safety gear. As one of the people has pointed out in interviews for these articles, is that they've been denied access to ventilators when the companies know full well that you're digging in toxin.
And like
And
just to
benzene, by the way, is an airborne toxin. So you need ventilators.
and to make things so much worse, they're finding chunks of asbestos and handling it. They were
Again,
never
100-year
trained on
old naval
proper.
site.
Yeah, they were never trained on safety precautions or protocol. And according to a soil sampling survey conducted in 2021, they found that the total recoverable levels of these materials, the arsenic, barium, petroleum, mercury, benzopropene, were above the state's residential criteria.
Yeah.
So they basically stated that this was above what should have even been allowed. And
Yeah.
it's
And fun
horrible.
fact, fun fact, barium is man-made only, and it prevents you from digesting food.
Jeez.
Exposure to it makes it impossible for your body to absorb nutrients by eating. It's a horrible way to die.
And one of the people, that same guy who brought up the safety concerns, brought up the health concerns to a supervisor, and the supervisor said, if you want to continue to be an archaeologist, you need to be okay with cancer. You need to get comfortable with cancer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what? In what universe? In what world are you, as a base level employee, required to get cancer for a job?
Yeah. Yeah, there is no reason for that to be a thing. And the best part is, after this employee went to HR with their concern, they were fired within a month. Hence why the lawsuits are becoming clearer as these sites, as these companies, in their effort to fast track their way through through this very important site, which they are not just destroying from the destructive prowess of archaeology, but from flooding the site with lethal toxins. Um, they're rushing to get through this, and they're causing more and more problems for themselves. I don't even know how you can even justify building on this site, since it's being flooded with petroleum byproducts.
Well, that's just it. It doesn't meet residential standards, but the realtor related group is really pushing through it, and it's argued that they're almost trying to even cover up some of the things that they're finding.
Yep. And keep in mind, if they're denied access to building their high rise, everything that's been excavated from this site is mysteriously destroyed or just disappears, because they have full and final custody over it, and they are holding it hostage.
Let's talk about the jewelry, the arrowheads, the leather and human burial mounds. Not to mention, there's a ceremonial dog burial, and they're finding thousands and thousands of artifacts every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. And the best part is, they have a Caribbean monk seal, which is from an extinct animal. They have bones from extinct animals. The monk seal, megalodons. All right, these people had not just historical artifacts from the things that they had in their time, but also just things we will never be able to see again. You can't go out and get monk seal. All right, it's not like getting a deer antler.
Not to mention, of those bones that they've recovered over 1 ton worth of bones and material in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a major site, and it is at best being used as a hostage situation, while it is being permanently erased from history. That is its best case scenario at the moment. And I wish I could say I was surprised by Florida, but I'm not.
Well, and then the article finishes off talking about the owner of related group being viewed as a philanthropist after he donated $35 million to the art museum. But it's
Yeah.
he's just really disrespecting the indigenous people, and he's looking at the bottom line. And at the end of the day, if employees' health isn't at risk, it's just not worth developing. I don't care how many millions of dollars are there.
Well, here's the thing. They want people to live on here. If this is killing the people that are building it, what do you think it's going to do to the people who have to live in it? This is I don't know how this hasn't gotten shut down. And I'm terrified of the retaliation when it is.
Oh, the retaliation is going to be severe, because this is really blown up in archaeology circles, and it's going to be very difficult for these companies to find proper archaeologists, or they're going to find young students who are naive to what's going on.
I am primarily concerned right now, not with these people having poor access to archaeologists, but just with, again, they're holding in trust the entire heritage of this site, in a warehouse somewhere.
I think
And
you're misunderstanding that
they aren't
part, and I feel the need to correct it. As someone who worked in a
Go for it.
CRM firm, you're usually the one in charge of the artifacts, and most times they go to repositories that are set up before the contract is signed. What they're saying is they're going to withhold funding to do interpretive signage and to actually like preserve aspects of the site. They're not going to do if the site doesn't go through.
Yeah. I'm concerned about the destruction of that.
They're not going to. Well, the thing is, they're allegedly
It's-
hiding some of the finds, which is bad. But it's not saying that they're outright destroying the artifacts, and
Well,
I feel the need to correct that.
It's being buried in oil. The artifacts are being destroyed.
Well, they're digging the artifacts out of the oil-filled soil.
Yeah. And I'm saying they're going to abandon it.
Well, preservation in place is almost better than anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Unless that place has suddenly become caustic with radioactive material.
oh,
I
even
think
then
it's
they're
going
try
to
and build
destroy a lot of what's there.
But anyways, I think that's a good point for us to wrap up on this one. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment. Let us know what your thoughts are on this whole ordeal. And we will see you in the next video.